Seeing date night, I thought I'd go with the movie's tradition, try to spice things up by traveling across a dangerous intersection to go to a store that holds the new Monster Nitrous that I've been dying to try. Was it worth it? Indubitably. A very helpful tip by Ezra's Huge Movie Reviews. I will now rate each category. Now, I did really like the trailer. I thought it had a fantastic style. I liked the original setup, but when it got into the whole real plot of the mob and everything, and I really just didn't care for that, and that was my one concern for the movie, and that's the only one I really held out, and other than that, it looked fantastic, and I was truly excited for it. I very much enjoyed this movie. The ratings did concern me in the reviews, but it actually went up fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and Roger Ebert gave it definite approval, and I was definitely surprised at how much I enjoyed this movie. Okay, so first off, acting. Definitely, without a doubt, the strongest component of this movie. Of course, the two leads are probably my two favorite shows on NBC, or two favorite comedy shows, 30 Rock for Tina Fey and The Office with Steve Carell. So they're coming together, and they're pretty much comedic opposite gender equivalents of each other, and all the supporting roles really saved this movie. From Mark Whalberg, and then there's even a surprise cut in to Ray Liota, but he plays the same thing since Goodfellas, pretty much saying the same character, and it kind of annoying. I really hated his character in Observe and Report, but I think he does do a lot better here, because I feel like he has more to work with, and the actors around him are definitely they can play off each other nicely. And I saw Mark Whalberg, and I wanted him to talk to Ray Liota, and there's some dialogue, because that'd be like a Martin Scorsese clash. And I cannot help but mention James Franco and Mila Kunis, who were just hysterical. James Franco in full Pineapple Express mode, and they were pulling some kind of Sid and Nancy relationship, which was fantastically executed, and was just hysterical for the short time they were in there. And even down to the smallest of roles with Mark Ruffalo and Kirsten Wiig were just both fantastic. And we even had Taraji P. Henson as the detective, and she did a great job here too. So my rating for this category is brought to you by my rather hefty friend, who looks right now with his haircut like kind of a gay Ringo Starr. So, take it away. Shawn Levy directs this movie, and he has his movies taken then, which are not so good to start with, and then people make even worse sequels off them. An example of Cheaper by the Dozen, Pink Panther, two not so great movies, two horrible sequels. And then he also helmed the Night at the Museum series, and I really enjoyed the first one, second one not so much. But surprisingly, he does a fantastic job here. He can create comedic situations phenomenally, and some of the action scenes are both hysterical, but yet completely involving. Now, I really didn't dig the transitions between the comedic stuff and the action stuff, but I think that he does a fantastic job with just even surprisingly fantastic cinematography. So I'll give directing a 9 out of 10. I was surprised to give the other two categories such high ratings. This is where the movie falls down a lot. Some of the dialogue is pretty bad, and only the actors can really save it at times. While I thought some of it was just hysterically written, whereas some of the dialogue, I can forgive that because the actors do it so well. But what I cannot forgive is the story. Now, I said earlier in my thoughts of the trailer that I was very concerned about the story, and when it takes off, it really, I couldn't really get involved in it. While it was just a fun setup for an easy access route for a fantastic vehicle through New York City, it really kind of stops with that, because I kind of wanted more of the story, and I felt I could call the ending from a mile away. Some parts you're supposed to be taking seriously, they'll throw in a one-liner in there, and it throws it off a lot, and it was just very out of pace, and I just didn't know what emotions they're trying to portray. But one thing I will, for a final compliment, to equal things out, was that for such a short movie, they did have a surprisingly nice development leading up to the actual date night. The anything else category today is also filled by the action and the comedy. Two things I very much thoroughly enjoyed. As I said, when they meshed together, they weren't meshed together all that well, but individually, fantastic. There are very little chuckles throughout, and it's consistently funny. But then there are two or more hysterically funny moments, including a car chase and a boat scene, and those two are fantastically hysterical, and yeah, it's consistently funny throughout. The anything else category is kind of hard to rate, so I'll just leave it as the comedy was good and the action was good, but together they weren't so great. My final consensus of this movie. While the fantastic cast performance is left to save most of the movie's flaws, not much can deter from the lackluster story, and the last 20 minutes of an awkward sexual turn only make matters worse. It comes up enjoyable, but yet extremely flawed. You guys are probably going to be surprised to hear this for a lot of the complaining I had to do, but the good factors were very enjoyable, and the fun of it just really overall kind of made me not care that much about the flaws. While they are still very big, I very much enjoyed this movie. I think it's one of the better movies of this year, and I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.